Thank you, Lauren. That was great. Our next speaker comes from Austin, Texas. He's the founder of Procertas. His name is Casey Flaherty.
Good morning. My name's Casey, and I like advertisements, but not modern advertisements, although the Super Bowl is sometimes interesting. I like looking at older advertisements, and the reason is you have a group of people who are sitting around trying to figure out the zeitgeist. So we now refer to the Mad Men era, because that show did a brilliant job of trying to capture a particular moment in history. What were people thinking, or at the very least, what were some people thinking that other people were thinking? And so to start, I'd like to show you an ad that A, I hope works, and B, I really like.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Mr. Daniels.
Mr. Daniels.
Look at this. What's this?
The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
Clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, it's Walter. We're back.
Yes, sir.
I need more trees. More trees? I'll get you more trees.
Hey, take a look at Woodpole.
Everything you got on Woodpole right now.
He really loves that thing.
So, friends at Adobe telling us, well, they're really telling us our technology doesn't work, that we rely on it so heavily, but it doesn't quite do what we want it to do. We've integrated into every aspect of our lives, the way we operate, the way we do business, and yet it's not quite there yet. It's not magic. There is no easy button, well, except for the one they want to sell you. But the last easy button you bought turned out it wasn't that easy. Technology is very, very frustrating because, again, it's not easy. It's not automatic. It's not magic. Well, okay, it's not magic for us. Anyone in this room who's over the age of 35, it's not magic. But kids these days, they get a Twitter account in utero. My son has been using an iPad since he was 1 year old. My wife is convinced that he is a genius. And of course, out loud, I agree. And it is true, he is locked into that machine and many others, and has been since he was born. But I'm sure some of you already know the second part of this stat. This is from an OECD study performed in 2013. The United States ranked last among all member countries. But the basic idea is they went out to people and they tested them on basic tech skills. Can you solve a particular problem? Here's an Excel spreadsheet. We're going to ask you some questions. Here's a Word document. We're going to ask you some questions. And everybody failed. Everybody, including the kids these days. Because here's the thing. Just because you got a Twitter account in utero doesn't mean you know how to use Word or Excel or many other basic pieces of software. Because yes, my son using an iPad is a testament to genius, but not his. It's the geniuses at Apple who made an operating system that was so intuitive even a 1-year-old could use it. Because really, what is he doing? He touches a picture and it moves. Just like that baby touches a picture and it makes a sound. That's intuitive. That's easy. That is not most of our technology once you get into a business environment, because you need something more than the picture to move. You need something a bit more complicated and a bit more complex. I look forward to the day when it's all that easy. That will be a great day. And it may be here someday. We have a friend from IBM. He watched Jeopardy, Watson. Maybe we're going to have natural language input, user interfaces, where we just ask the computer to do something and it does it. And it can infer what we want, and if it doesn't understand, it can ask us questions until it gets it right. But we're not there yet. Our cars and our technology are not yet self-driving. They still require precise user inputs. And those user inputs are not innate. They're not intuitive. It's not about natural talent. It's about a bundle of learned skills. It's about deliberate practice. And this is true for the young and the old alike. The problem with our technology is us. We are the rate limiting factor when it comes to our technology. We sit there, we stare at us, and it stares back because it's waiting for us to tell it what to do. It needs us to tell it what to do in order to do it. As lawyers, this is a problem. Because the thing is, we are going to get it done. Whatever it is, we're going to get it done because we care, because it's important. But there's a question of how and how long. And our nose is so close to the grindstone so often that we don't get the chance to step back and say, is this the best way to do it? I know this when it comes to lawyers because I'm crazy. Because when I moved in-house, after what I'd seen at a large law firm, I actually went out and I tested my lawyers, the associates and the staff, on how they were using technology. And how do you think it turned out? They were awful. And by the way, they weren't awful because they were stupid, or because they were lazy, or because they didn't care. They were awful because they'd never been trained. Because it is a bundle of learned skills, not an innate talent. And I, as in-house counsel, didn't want to pay for it. I wanted to pay for what they did that added value, not the labor-intensive work that was necessary but didn't add value. And so I tested people. I have plenty of empirical evidence about the myth of the digital native as it applies to law. Just because someone can microwave a Hot Pocket doesn't mean they know how to cook a gourmet meal. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Hot Pockets. Gourmet meals, Excel, Word, Outlook. And actually, those aren't even gourmet meals. Those are more 5-minute meals. But they do require actual preparation and some understanding of what you're doing. And understanding is an interesting thing. I'm going to confess to you, I don't really know how to use my microwave. I mean, I do. I know how to put things in, put time on and press start. But despite the fact that I can read English, those are the only buttons I use. And I am not alone. I used to work at a car company. Infotainment systems can check Twitter, Facebook, find your car, schedule your maintenance. You have to have them. You have to have them to sell the car. But users use about 2% of the features offered to them. And that we have smart cars, smart TVs, smart toasters, and yet we do not use those smart features. Smart means a proliferation of buttons and menus that we don't use. Because bare survival is where most of us get to with most technology. We do the one thing we absolutely have to do, and we don't learn more. This is a problem in general, But it's a really big problem in e-discovery. Because in e-discovery, it's not just that you have to be able to use it, you have to have some idea about how it works. You have to understand what's going on under the hood. You have to understand how other people are using it in order to do e-discovery well. This is an enormous, enormous problem that we have because e-discovery is now a standard part of legal practice. I was barred in California. The opinion mentioned earlier, very interesting to read. And it's interesting to read for two reasons. One of the reasons is, yes, e-discovery, if you're a litigator, you need to have some competence in it. But another is that California is not one of the, I believe now, 20 states that have adopted the model rule from the ABA. Meaning they read into their rule this duty of competence with technology without actually changing the text of the rule. They said, well, of course you have to be competent with technology. Of those 20 states, it's my understanding that you're going to join them in March 1st. I believe you have Sharon Nelson to thank for that, and I'm sure she'll talk about it. But you have adopted the model rule. But California and Florida is another example of this, haven't, and yet they have found this duty of competence. And it's not just they found it, but it took less than 2 months for that ethics opinion to find its way into a sanctions case against an attorney in California. I believe my friend Mr. Favreau referred to this as a blockbuster decision, and he may talk about it later. This was very hard to read if you're a senior attorney, this particular case, because they said, look, we relied on the IT people at the client, and we relied on our vendor for this, that, and the other thing. And the judge said, I don't care. There are duties you have that you cannot delegate. It's in my opinion, it's in the ethics opinion, you cannot delegate. You are responsible. You need to know. You need to understand. But here's the thing. Most of us don't know what we don't know. The Dunningkruger Effect is about metacognition. Our ignorance of our own ignorance. Many of us labor under delusions of adequacy because we do not know that we're inadequate. I am not an e-discovery expert. I've gotten a lot better over the years, but let me tell you about how I became an e-discovery person. I was walking down the hall, large law firm, and there was this one partner who was screaming, and he was a screamer, so this wasn't uncommon, but the thing he happened to be screaming about was that the troll in the machine had eaten his work. That all these files had just disappeared and the world was about to end. And so, I ran in like a superhero and I pressed Control-Z, undo. And all the files magically appeared again. And he looked at me like I was some kind of wizard. And from then on, I handled all of his e-discovery. There was only one problem. I knew nothing about e-discovery. So what did I do? Well, to be honest, I started reading Craig Ball. And I got better. I did. And now, I am better than 99% of attorneys out there when it comes to e-discovery. I might even be better than 99.9. But that's not very good. Because that doesn't make me an expert. That makes me baseline competent. I at least know what I don't know. And I know when to call people in. But there's another story. And this is where it comes back to the myth of the digital native. I got pulled in because that partner realized I knew more than he did. But the problem with the ignorance is you don't know how much more. That partner could not tell the difference between me and Craig Ball. I knew slightly more than him, so as far as he was concerned, I knew infinitely more than him. I was overseeing a very large case, and case doesn't do it justice. There were multiple litigations, multiple class actions, multiple regulators looking into this particular issue. We had 3 of the top 10 firms on the AmLaw 100 involved, plus 10 others. There were lots and lots of chefs, lots and lots of chiefs. And so I brought in coordinating counsel for e-discovery because, and I know this is going to surprise you, lawyers don't play nice with each other. Sometimes even within the same firm, but especially from firm to firm. And so we needed a coordinated e-discovery response. This didn't sit well with everybody, and so they needed to send in their own e-discovery people. And there were 2 in particular. One was younger than me, and she was from one of the top 3 firms in the United States. And she was really smart, and she was really good, and if you talk to her about the substance of the case, she was completely on point. But for her, you heard the term PST earlier, for her it meant Pacific Standard Time. And some people think that's funny, other people don't understand why I'm joking. And that's the problem. And that's the thing. But the partner, the senior partner on the case, had sent her because he trusted her, because he was sure she knew more than he did about technology. There was another woman there. She was of counsel at another large firm, and she was amazing. And she was also probably 30 years the senior of this particular lawyer. And you know why she was amazing? Because she'd actually studied, because she'd trained, because she'd learned, because she did what lawyers do, which is they get up to speed on things that they need to know. And she had spent a lot of time getting up to speed on this. It had nothing to do with age and everything to do with training, experience, and temperament. And so the digital native is a pernicious myth. And by the way, because I bet a lot of these law students are thinking to themselves, oh, I could pass whatever it is that he gave his lawyers. No. I go out to law schools too. I give them my training and testing for free, and they're even worse than lawyers in practice. The digital natives have bought into their own myth. We all have, and it is a pernicious one. We need to do what we've always done. We need to learn. We need to work. And that is as true with technology and e-discovery as it is with everybody else. Our problem, a big problem we have, is we do not have transparency. We do not have accountability. We don't know who knows what. And you have to know something in order to figure it out. And we, of course, have this problem, that everybody is just so busy. Craig Ball is, among other things, an engineer, and I know in engineering they have a sardonic expression: when brute force fails, you aren't using enough. In legal, we have turned that into an operating principle. But here's the thing, it does not work when it comes to technology. It does not work when it comes to e-discovery. You can't just throw hours at the problem. You actually have to know what you're doing. And it's going to get worse. It's going to keep accelerating. It's going to become more and more important that we know what we're doing. This is how technology moves. This is how we move. And we need to change that. We need to think about how we approach it. John Seeley Brown invented the future. Not really, but he was the director of PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center, where they invented things like the graphical user interface, the mouse, Ethernet, the laser printer. And as he went about inventing the future, he determined very quickly that the technology was the easy part. It's the people that are the hard part. It's the people that need to change. It's the people that need to understand the implications of the technology. And that is our challenge. It's a challenge as a profession. It's a personal challenge. It's an ethical challenge. And it's one that we're not meeting particularly well. But we're a pretty resilient group. We tend to bounce back. And I think we're probably going to do much better in the future, especially because of programs like this. Thank you very much.